Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Jim Morrison, and with me, as always, is our host, Hal Humphreys. Let me bring him in. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well today, Jim. Thank you very much for asking. I am working today for my brother-in-law's office here in Humboldt, Tennessee. So that's why the different background.
All right. Well, we have something pretty big for appraisers. It's huge. You might even say it's giant. Let me bring in the giant appraiser, Tony Washington. Hey, Tony, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Jim and Hal? How are you?
Just absolutely fantastic.
That's awesome.
Tony, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I am not the most active person on Instagram, but I do have an account. I actually have three different accounts. My personal account, I noticed you on Instagram, started following you. I reached out to you a little bit ago, and we finally got you in here in the studio to do a little recording. Thank you for being here. In kind of going through your backstory a little bit, it sounds like you didn't have the normal approach to getting into this business. Do you mind to tell us how you got into this business?
Oh yeah, definitely wasn't the conventional approach. And I actually started my trainee time. Well, I'll go before the trainee or not, but yeah, I actually learned about this business when I was playing basketball overseas. I played for 3 years right after college, and then like one little break or whatever, summertime of coming out. And my mentor, he was like, man, this appraiser just left my house and he was only here for 15 minutes and I had to pay him $600, let's say. And I was like, wow, $600 for only 15 minutes, that sounds like a good gig. But actually going into it and getting into the industry, you find out that there's a lot more work being done behind the scenes, more than that 15 minutes. So yeah, that's initially how I started it with this business. And actually getting into it was a whole different animal, so to speak. You have to find your appraiser, get the right courses lined in and stuff like that to get up to speed with the profession, and then actually get out there and put in those experience hours and whatnot.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time, and I do think I love the perception of the general public. The appraiser was at my house for 15, 30, 20 minutes, whatever, and I paid him $600. What they don't understand is before we get to the house, we've spent a lot of time in researching and getting ready. And then after we leave the house, that's where the real work starts for us as appraisers, is sitting down and doing the analysis. So yeah, really, really, really fun story about, playing basketball out of college overseas. I have a couple of friends that I went to college with that did the same thing. And, when I go on to Instagram and see your Instagram feed, it is called the Giant Appraiser, and that is apt label for your Instagram feed.
Oh yeah. It started when I was training. When I was a trainee. It's funny because after I found my mentor and whatnot, I was just researching everything about appraising, and I always went past the Appraisal Buzzcast on YouTube. So I had you guys in my little playlist rotation as a trainee, and now I'm talking to you right now and Jim as well. So it's like a little full circle moment here. But
I love it.
Just the Giant Appraiser came from just when I started as a trainee on TikTok. I had I'm a little taller. I'm 6'10", and so it was like, yeah, the Giant, it'll fit me properly working with my supervisor, Barry Phillips out here in South Carolina. Lovely guy, great guy, very smart guy. And it's a really a good move to, like, people want to know, or people want to have a mentor, but it's about who you're learning from as a mentor. You don't want to learn from the wrong, supervisor or something like that. So I just thought that taking that opportunity and getting to push it out and share it with other people who are maybe looking to get into the industry and how they could do so and stuff. So,
well, let's do this, Tony. I'm going to take a real quick break, and we're going to hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Solidify is one of the nation's most trusted valuation and title partners. With their proprietary technology and extensive network, Solidify delivers industry-leading quality, transparency, efficiency, and scale to the largest mortgage lenders in the U.S. Their marketplace of independent, qualified field professionals makes the homeownership experience extraordinary every time. Visit solidify.com for more information and stay connected with their latest news on LinkedIn.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host, and I'm joined today by Tony Washington, a man that I look up to, a man that most people look up to. Tony is the Giant Appraiser, and if you are on Instagram and you're an appraiser, check out the Giant Appraiser. Give him a follow. He's got some really interesting posts out there. One of the things that a lot of appraisers, Tony, seem to drop the ball on is how to use social media, especially as part of their marketing strategy. There are some appraisers on Facebook. I recommend for appraisers not to worry about Facebook, focus on Instagram where people are nicer in general. But, why is this something that you've embraced so much for your marketing?
Well, that's a great question, Hal. To me, I feel as though social media is like a gold mine for appraisers, because I feel like we're used to sitting back in our offices and whatnot, and like having the work come to us straight to our email and whatnot. But there's a whole nother lane. Obviously, appraisers know the non-lender lane and whatnot, and the best way to tap into the non-lender lane would be social media, because they would know that you exist and they know you're out there. So I like to just make general TikToks, Instagrams, just to connect with the homeowners around my area, realtors, and aspiring appraisers everywhere who don't have like the conventional route, like I didn't have, so to speak, and whatnot. So yeah, that's pretty much what I like to do, and just being authentic, being a real you, showing people who the appraiser is behind the profession, and just talking with them and answering some of the common questions that we all get asked a lot. So
yeah, we do get asked a lot of questions. For someone that's trying to think of new ways to market their business, what are a couple of pieces of advice that you would give to someone that's hesitant to get started in social media as a marketing tool?
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. I would say just to start small, start on one platform. I know you wouldn't start on Facebook, but Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I like TikTok right now and Instagram, but yeah, start on one of those and just don't worry about trying to go viral or anything. Just be consistent. I say that as I haven't posted a video, and sometimes it's when the workflow just catches up to you as an appraiser, then it gets like kind of hard to stay on top of that. But for the most part, be consistent in what you're posting. Answer a lot of common questions. Just take your time out and show them a little bit of the behind the scenes of what appraiser goes through on the road, in the field, boots on the ground, and also as much as you can behind the office, in the scenes, without violating any USPAT laws or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I find really good about your Instagram feed, and you mentioned this before the commercial break, trying to be yourself, trying to be authentic. And I think that's a key that people need to keep in mind is if you are yourself on social media, you are who you are, you're authentic, it seems to land better.
Oh yeah. People can relate to that more. They can like feel you behind the screen a little bit better. So I'll just try. I mean, it's hard for me and myself. I like go through and figure out what I want to talk about today, and then figure out how I want to say it in my voice. And sometimes it comes off different to different people, and sometimes it resonates with that person that homeowner who is going to have an appraisal show up in their house in the next 30 minutes, or that realtor who wants to know how they can present their listing to the market, or the trainee who's not the trainee yet, who wants to know how to take that next step to become a trainee and stuff like that. So it's just all about trying to eliminate the jargon and all that. I know we do that all. It's hard to eliminate the jargon in the appraisal world, but we do it all the time, and it's just trying to balance it out a little bit.
Two things. Number one, jargon, I think, is one of the absolute worst things that appraisers can do, is speak in appraisalese at all times.
Mm-hmm.
I find jargon to be off-putting personally. The other thing, I did notice in your Instagram feed that you spend a lot of time talking directly to trainees. And when we come back from this commercial break, I'd like to dive into that just a little bit more. But let's hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
LIA Administrators and Insurance Services, serving valuation professionals since 1978. We provide E&O insurance with a commitment to superior customer service, outstanding liability education, and unmatched claim defense, benefiting over 10,000 real estate professionals nationwide. Explore our exclusive Appraiser liability education by Peter Christensen and cost-effective seminars designed to foster your growth. Our underwriters, with an average of 26 years of experience each, are dedicated to supporting appraisers. Visit liability.com to discover how LIA can safeguard your business.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Hal Humphreys. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzz, and I'm joined today by Tony Washington, the Giant Appraiser on Instagram. Tony, before the break, we were talking about trainees just a little bit. I want to dive into that just a little bit because I think that's one of the most important things that you do is you talk directly to trainees. Couple of questions. Why do you think it's important to meet this next generation of appraisers where they are? And the second part of the question is, with new technology coming out, the new UAD changes coming down the pike, do you think younger appraisers are in a better place than ever to learn these new systems?
Oh yeah, great questions. Great questions. I'll start at the top. I really believe that the future of our industry is depends on us supporting the next generation, mentoring the right group of people who can come in and protect the public's trust when it comes to valuing their property. And originally, to be honest, when I first made the Giant Appraiser TikTok, I wasn't in Instagram. I wasn't trying to cater to trainees. It was more of like trying to stay local and reach out to homeowners and realtors that way. But as I gained a little momentum on TikTok and whatnot, I've noticed that like a lot of realtors from out of the state, a lot of homeowners from out of the state were latching on to the content and whatnot. And then that brought in like an array of people who are like really interested in what appraisers do. So that got me to, try to like shift myself. Like if I'm gonna like teach more people or give tips about like trainees getting to the industry, that's not gonna like go directly into my business locally. But I don't mean to segue too much, but teaching other people about what we do has actually benefited my personal business here locally in a different way and whatnot. So that's been good. So that's why I like keep on pushing out trainee content and trying to get more people involved and just knowing the industry. And to your second question, younger appraisers are, I believe they're already like with the technology phase and whatnot. So I know my mentor, Barry Phillips, he's the most technological appraiser I know. So appraisers like him, they don't have any hardships with learning new technologies. But the younger appraisers, I think the younger people who are interested, I think it'll be easier for them to make that transition and, learn the systems we use, the software. I don't know if you do the iPads or not, or the clipboard, but learn the iPads and how to sketch and stuff that way. So I feel it'll be really good for the profession.
Yeah, I think number one, I know Barry Phillips and I like Barry Phillips. I consider him a friend, and he's one of those guys that stays on top of technology. I don't use an iPad when I'm out in the field. I use my iPhone. I like to keep the kit as small as possible. But I ditched the clipboard and graph paper 10 years ago. I've never been a fan of that process, primarily because my handwriting is absolutely atrocious.
Mine as well.
Yeah. So look, I'm really happy to have you on the show today, and I'm tickled to talk about these things. For our listeners out there, if you're on Instagram or TikTok, give the Giant Appraiser a follow. It's really good information. It's entertaining. He does a great job of explaining some things. If you're a trainee and you're interested in getting into this business, I'm going to highly recommend that you give the Giant Appraiser a follow. Check him out on TikTok and Instagram, and just pay attention to what he has to say, because as a person trying to get into the appraisal business, there aren't that many places to go get little mobile mentoring tips. And Tony does a really good job with that. So Tony, thank you again for being here. I greatly appreciate your time.
I appreciate that, Hal. I appreciate being here. This is a little milestone dream come true for my career. So this is awesome.
Jim Morrison, so Tony, one of the things that Jim Morrison does to me pretty much every time is he throws these questions at me to try and trip me up, called the anonymous appraiser question. Jim, do we have an anonymous appraiser question today?
We do have an anonymous appraiser question. If anybody else has a question that they want to get answered from our experts, they can reach out to us at comments@appraisalbuzz.com or post them in our YouTube videos. So this question says, I'm seeing a lot of new construction companies offering interest rate buy downs of up to $50K. How do I handle this when appraising the property? Do you think those should be taken right off the top automatically? In this case, it's in a new home subdivision, and it's happening with the resales as the builder is selling off the last of its inventory.
I'll dive in real quick and just say, to answer really, really quickly, the first major thing that I would see in that question is, I beg you, do not just take it off the top immediately. Fannie Mae has language about doing that. USPAP has language about doing that. At the end of the day, I don't think it's possible for me or Tony to fully answer this question for you. It depends on your market. It depends on how the market reacts to these things. Tony, any thoughts on what this appraiser might do?
Oh yeah, it definitely depends on the market. It depends on how the concessions and whatnot align with the market trends that's going on in that neighborhood. And it's funny because I was just on the appraisal panel yesterday, and I think this with the realtors and whatnot, and this came up, and it's a big old question about it depends. And I know we appraisers say that all the time, and it's hard to give a straight direct answer if we're not like diving into it ourselves or in that market. So yeah, you definitely hit it right on the money, Hal.
Well, here's what I would suggest, and this is just Hal Humphrey's appraiser talking to anonymous appraiser. USPAP and Fannie Mae require us to analyze a contract if it's available during the normal course of business. Fannie Mae goes further and specifically requires appraisers to report and analyze any seller concessions or incentives. So you've got to do that. The next thing is study the market, see if the market is reacting to these things. I would prefer, as an appraiser, to find some comparable sales that have very similar buy downs happening so that I know how the market is reacting. Whatever you decide to do, number one, have market support for it. And that's just through the old school appraisal technique of research and analyze. But whatever you do, document it clearly in your report. Tell the reader what you did and why you did it. And finally, again, avoid just automatically deducting that number right off the top without any market-based justification. That is not the right way to approach it. So I beg you, don't just take that number and subtract it and say that's what the sales price is. Sometimes the market says, hey, this is a really good thing, and we're going to give some credibility to these things, and it has an impact on value. Sometimes the market says, hey, these are kind of common across the board here, and it really doesn't impact the value.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the job of the appraiser, to do the research, find out how the market is reacting, and then report it to your client. Tony, you agree with what I said?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. That's really good. Yes, sir.
Okay. Morrison, do we have anything else we need to cover today?
No, that's it. Tony, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we'll put the links to Tony's Instagram and TikTok in the description. We really appreciate you joining us.
Oh yeah, thank you, Jim. I appreciate the invite, and thank you, Hal, for sitting down with me and talking this morning.
Totally my pleasure. Enjoyed having you on the show. If we have nothing else, for Jim Morrison and Tony Washington, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzzcast for this week.